This is TAZA, a knowledge series brought to you by Alliance for Coffee Excellence and Cup of Excellence.
Good evening, Alex.
Good morning, Adi. How are you?
I'm good. Awesome.
Yeah, it's nice to see your face.
Yeah. So how is it up there?
We're hanging in there. It's kind of intense here with the pandemic right now. We've been on lockdown for like a month and a half. But we're surviving. It could be much worse.
True. Agree on that.
Yeah. Yeah. How are you guys and your family?
We're good. My wife is getting crazy with our little girl with the homeschooling. Like any other moms, I think everywhere in the world, because every school kids have to learn at home. Other than that, business is slowing down a lot, but we're managing.
Cool.
We can hold on. At least we can still pay our crew for the next 2 months, so we'll be okay.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like we're at a pretty similar place that COE can still manage to pay us for a couple more months. And hopefully everyone will have their competitions in the fall time. Like Colombia and Brazil, and if that happens, we'll be fine. We'll get through.
I'll drink to that.
Yeah. Cheers. Cool. So shall we start this?
Sure.
Cool. So I am here with Adi, who is a founder of 5758 Coffee Lab in Bandung, Indonesia. It's one of the premier coffee labs in Indonesia. And I wanted to take some time and ask Adi about how COVID-19 is affecting the coffee business in Indonesia, especially with training and education. Adi, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy morning to be with us.
No problem, man. It's always great to meet you again.
Great. So I just wanted to start off so that people could get to know you a little bit. Would you mind telling us how you started working in coffee and what was the inspiration behind starting 5758 Coffee Lab?
Okay. I used to work in the kitchen. I love coffee so much. And then one thing lead to another. I learned that if I work in coffee in Indonesia, actually not only I'm supporting myself, but in the long term, I can sort of help my country because my country is a coffee producing country. So I start to enrich my knowledge in coffee after that. And it took me quite a long time, several decades, to actually build this place, 5758 Coffee Lab. Before 5758 Coffee Lab, I teach coffee wherever my client asks me to do. In a coffee shop, in a meeting room, in a hotel room, whatever. Until at one time, I realized that I have a big income, but I also have a big spending because lugging all the stuff needed for training make me tired. When I'm tired, I want to eat something nice. So yeah, that's where all my money goes that time. And also another problem with doing small scale is the cost is higher. So 6 years ago, I'm moving back to Bandung I was working in Jakarta previously. Moved back to Bandung because I need to enroll my daughter in the school in Bandung. I want her to grow up in the city where I was born. And we found this place, fell in love with it, and the rent is not that high. So I started to gather some people who have the same vision about education, and we built 5758 Coffee Lab, thinking that by having a place, we can have more volume, more people taking the training, which basically means that the cost of training will be lower. We want the training to be able, well, we want the people who took the training is ranging from the people who want to start up a coffee shop up to people who's actually working in the industry for quite a long time. Most of the baristas don't really have money. So we try to create a pricing where they can still afford to take the class in our place.
Cool. That's awesome. I mean, I can say from experience from having been there that it's one of the most well-run and well-equipped coffee labs that I've had the pleasure to teach in. So definitely during this whole time with COVID-19, I've been worried about you guys, you know.
We're okay. Don't worry, man.
Oh, good. I'm curious, you know, how are you guys being affected by the pandemic? Are you still teaching classes? And if you are teaching classes, you know, what type of systems are you putting in place or needing to put in place to keep people safe and keep open?
Well, we stopped teaching classes around a month ago. We've been trying to find a way to be able to teach classes, reducing the amount of size of a class. Usually we have like 12 students, we reduce it to 9. We create more distances for the student, we rearrange stuff, we play around with a bunch of things that we have in our mind. But then we decided that we don't want to be like in the newspaper saying that, oh, now we have a new cluster, the 5758 cluster. So me and our partner, we decided that, okay, we're just gonna stop. We're gonna try to help the people by stop teaching because we don't want people to gather around and actually spread the COVID-19. So because we stopped teaching, we switch from teaching to learning. So we actually asked the instructors here to learn on how to create a class and ask them to create a class at a more basic, more affordable class, because we think that after everything is done, after the pandemic is done, people are willing to learn again, but they don't have the money, the funding that they need. Besides that, the Indonesian government actually have set up some money for people who lost their job because of the pandemic if they want to learn again. And that budget is relatively low, so we have to adjust the classes that we normally do to fit those budgets. So it's been fun. It's been challenging, especially because most of the instructors are type of people who learn stuff by doing it. Now we want them to create those experience for the new people who probably never worked in coffee before, but they need to find a job in coffee because they need a job.
Cool. That's
Alex, you're breaking up.
Hello,
Hi, Anna. Oh,
Alex.
here you go. Sorry. I was working with something and I saw Anna as a host. Like automatically, I say, "Hey, Anna."
That's okay. Yeah, it's she's the one with the business Zoom account, so that's what we're using. Uh,
Okay, so where were we?
you were just telling me about the classes that
Mm-hmm.
you're having your staff work to develop,
Mm-hmm.
the lesser cost ones, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a super cool idea. And
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about like what type of classes they are.
Well, all of the classes we do in 5758 is more on the experiential learning type of class. So we don't want to give people a lot of theories. We actually want them to actually learn, practice, and so on. So these classes we built for the Indonesian government project is, which a lot of company actually do this class. We're just one of them. Our version of the class is we want people to be able to learn how to become an operator in a coffee shop. It's not yet a barista, but an operator where these people will be able to do a little bit of manual brewing using P60s and Vietnam drip. Also, how to use espresso machines, how to use manual espresso machine like Ropresso and steaming using Bellman, because we never know in what type of coffee shop they'll be working. So we want them to be ready using all of this basic equipment that they might find in the coffee shops.
Very cool. That's super neat. Um, cool. So I was gonna ask you too, like I was looking at your guys' Instagram this
Mm-hmm.
morning and I noticed that you had a post. I had to translate it, so I hope I got it right. This question's relevant. But you were asking people their preference in coffee learning, online versus offline.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that the post had like over 90 comments.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering if you could tell us about the kind of response that you had from your followers.
Okay, well, actually, that post is we have to relearn the way Instagram works during this pandemic, because the way people react actually different with the normal time. So we're learning at what time they're actually reacting, and we through these posts we learned that people in Indonesia, they react after 6 p.m.
Okay.
So if you post something like in the morning or in the afternoon, the response is not going to be that great. But if you post something a little bit late in the evening,
Mm-hmm.
the response is great. And through that post, we actually learned that most of the people love the offline version, because some of them says that there's a lot of people creating YouTube videos on how to do this and that.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that they never be able to learn is how the coffee should taste like. What
Mm-hmm.
happens when you change one of the parameters? And those are the one that people love about our classes. We actually push them to, well, in a manual brew class, one of the challenge in the basic class, one of the challenge we give the student is how to create a bitter tasting coffee using a light roasted coffee. Or like how can you make a
Mm-hmm.
really dark roasted coffee that doesn't taste bitter? So
Yeah.
we actually push them to play around.
Nice.
And it's difficult to ask them to do that if we do it online.
Yeah, that taste component is so important.
Yep.
Cool.
And we're dealing with coffee, we're dealing with beverages, and the thing that people buy is how the beverage will taste like, not how you actually make the product. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think a lot of consumers care whether you do a single blooming, double blooming, what's the ratio, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
As the coffee is great, it'll be awesome.
Yeah, it's all about the taste.
Oh yeah.
I think that like kind of segues perfectly into the next question I wanted to ask you, which is, we're seeing classes, the in-person classes canceled all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
And, you may have kind of already answered this, but do you think once this is over that there will be start to be a demand for these classes again, and that we will, as coffee educators, will bounce back.
Mm-hmm. Well, I see that the demand is going to be big. Even until now, after we post in our Instagram, in our social media that we don't have any classes, our class manager, Desi, is still having people WhatsApping her asking, when is the next class? So there's a lot of people actually want to go out from their home and actually do something.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people go crazy in their home. So I believe when the pandemic is considered done, people will start going out to do something. They want to learn. They got bored. They want to do something. The problem is, probably at that time, these people wouldn't have that much money left to be spent for learning. If we can create a more affordable price, for more affordable class for that period, I think we'll be okay.
Cool. That's nice. It's nice to hear like hopefulness and optimism in this time. I feel so many people are so worried and there's so much doom and gloom. So it's really nice to hear that optimistic viewpoint.
Well, I don't know. For me personally, this pandemic is the way Mother Earth trying to realign herself, to balance everything out. And being a pessimist in this time, I don't think gonna help anyone.
Totally. Yeah. So I've been wondering, Indonesia has such a thriving cafe culture, and it seems like it's just been booming and exploding. And you guys have the lovely cafe on the ground floor of your building. How are cafes kind of broadly being affected? And are you seeing any like unique or interesting solutions that cafes are implementing to stay in business during this time?
Okay. Well, a lot of coffee shop sadly have to close. We also have a lot of baristas, a lot of people who work in the industry have to be laid off because the company couldn't afford to pay their salary. But we also see that there's some coffee shop who switch from serving guests sitting down, that they only serve like for takeout or delivery. So some coffee shop actually managed to do the shift. They also start bottling their coffee, selling them as coffee with milk, where people can store them in the fridge and drink them. Here we actually play around with making instant coffee, like a sudden or swift. So I see people are managing to find ways to keep the company survive. Some coffee shop actually start selling frozen food, which their main kitchen cook. So I see a lot of genius ideas on how to get income from this situation. But one thing I like about this is actually show that some company have a big heart to help others. Here in Bandung, we have this informal community called the Manual Brew community. And this community actually set up a fund to help barista who got laid off or small coffee shop that don't have enough money to pay electricity, by organizing the bigger coffee shop to create this like a co-op situation where we donate some money, and we also donate part of the sales that we do from online shops, online stores, to help these baristas. So we also see that there's a lot of coffee shop or restaurants packing up their products and send them to hospitals, to people who work in the healthcare system, because we know that they're busy enough working with this, and we want to make sure that they're being fed properly, they have enough coffee and so on. So this is hard for everyone, but it also shows that you still have a lot of people with big heart in it.
Very cool. Well, I think that's all super neat, and I really appreciate like hearing all the like positive kind of stories coming out of Indonesia and the coffee community there. To wrap things up, I just had two kind of secret rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
So the first one is, what is your superpower?
Well, my superpower is I'm able. If I laugh, people will laugh around me.
Nice. You're right, it works. That's a good one. And so the second question is, if you were a coffee drink, what coffee drink would you be and why?
What coffee drink will I be and why? Well, I'll be a coffee drink that will tell a lot of stories, because years ago, decades ago, when I was still in high school, I actually used coffee bean. I used coffee to help me travel. I buy the coffee that I can afford that time. Use a lot of imaginations and wondering what Gaia looks like while sipping their coffee. I want to be that coffee. I want to be a coffee that can tell a lot of stories to the people who drinks them.
Nice. That's beautiful, my friend. Well, I so appreciate you taking time out of your morning to talk to us. It's really great to see your face.
No worries, man. It's also awesome to meet you again. Sadly, we couldn't meet face to face soon. Well, I hope we can still meet face to face soon, and you conduct SET class in our lab.
Yeah, that's my hope too. I'm really, keeping my fingers crossed that the course that we have scheduled in your lab will happen, and that we'll be able to travel again. And, I think we'll definitely do some talking with Darren and work on finding ways to make it affordable so people can attend.